Alright, so the way we name covalent compounds, there is a set of rules for it. Now remember, a covalent compound is two nonmetals. Alright, so remember, two nonmetals live on the right side of the periodic table. So, the rules are, you name the first element in the compound, you use the appropriate prefix based on the subscript of that element. If there's only one, you do not use a prefix. Then for the second element, you name it. Again, you use the appropriate prefix. However, this one will always receive a prefix, even if there's only one. And then you change the ending of that second element to IDE. So here are the prefixes. These are the Greek prefixes, not Latin prefixes. You got to memorize these, but they tell you based on how many there are, what the prefix would be. And remember, prefixes go in front of the element's name. So let's do some examples. So N2O4. Our two elements are nitrogen and oxygen. There are two nitrogens, so the prefix is di. So dinitrogen. And there are four oxygens, so instead of being tetraoxygen, it's tetraoxide. Now, some sources will just put it as tetroxide instead of tetraoxide. Either one is okay. All right. I'm not going to mark you off if you add that extra A in or not. All right, second one, XeF4. Xenon and fluorine are our two elements. There's only one xenon, but it does not get a prefix, because remember, the rules are if there's only one, you do not use a prefix of the first one. So it's just going to be xenon. And then the prefix for 4, again, is tetra. So tetrafluoride. IDE because there are 4 of them. Or fluoride, IDE because that's the second element. It always gets an IDE ending. Alright, next one. N2O5. We have nitrogen and oxygen again. But this time, it's still going to be dinitrogen. But this time, instead of it being tetraoxide like we had in the first one, it's pentaoxide or pentoxide. Again, either way is fine. Next one, CO. There's only one carbon, so it just is carbon. Remember, there's no prefix if there's only one of the first element. There's only one oxygen, so it's going to be carbon monoxide. All right, so last example, we have carbon and bromine. Carbon, and then 4 bromines, tetrabromide. When you're changing the ending of the element to IDE, you typically you cut it off after the first syllable. So that's why oxygen becomes oxide instead of oxygen, which just doesn't make any sense. All right, next set of examples. This is going the other way, so from the formula to the name. So, again, we just look at the little prefixes that are in front. So these elements are arsenic and oxygen. Well, the prefix on arsenic is di, so that means there are 2 arsenics. The prefix on oxide is pent, or penta. That's 5, so As2O5. This next one, we have phosphorus and bromine. There's no prefix on phosphorus. That means that it's just a 1. We don't write 1, so it's just P. And then the prefix on bromide is 5, or it's penta for 5, so PBr5. Next one, carbon tetraiodide. Carbon, there's no prefix, so there's just 1. And iodine with a subscript of 4 because it's tetra. Trisilicon tetranitride. Well, silicon is Si. There are 3 of them. Nitride comes from nitrogen, so it's N with a subscript of 4 because of tetra. And the last one, tetraphosphorus decoxide. P4 for tetraphosphorus, O10 for decoxide. And that's the gist of covalent naming.